Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Questioning a better way, one gracefully disruptive conversation at a time.
Hi guys, welcome to Turmeric and Tequila. I'm so excited to be here with you today. We have George Mason University family in the house. This is quite literally a conversation that has been 20 years in the making, long before I ever thought I would be a podcaster or even podcasting was a thing. So I'm super excited to welcome the Haas Tabrizi to Turmeric and Tequila. Haas, how are you?
Great. How you doing? Thank you for having me on the show.
I'm so excited. Now, this guy's a pro TED talker. I'm going to give his quick bio just because he's such a varsity human. He's a motivational speaker, financial advisor, sports coach to several teams, let it be known, a mentor helping thousands unlock their full potential. He believes that everyone has greatness within. As a motivational speaker, financial advisor, and athletic coach, he says he has dedicated his life to helping people unlock their full potential, whether you're looking to achieve your career goals, improve your personal relationships, or simply find more happiness in your life. I'm here to help. Let's work together to unlock greatness.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. This is so funny because of all those credentials that I think are so important, and obviously got to display the ethos, I think the new conversation since we spoke at George Mason is really this conversation around happiness and the importance of it. And you've seen this whole lane of coaching and, you know, advising and courses and all these things come out around happiness. And this wasn't really a conversation when I was in college. Or, I mean, I don't know if this was conversations you were having back then, but I like, of all the credentials there, now we are in a space where happiness and how we get to that space of happiness is actually a thing. So I want to talk about that. But before we get in, you know, on Turmeric and Tequila, let's get into the young version of Haas so we can kind of see how this path brought you to where you are.
I'm going to add one more layer to that. So before I got on the podcast, the day's been hectic. And to have the happiness, to have the balance in my life, do you want to know what I was doing before I got on? I had 15 minutes. Do you know what I did?
I would love
Something
to know.
You love to do it. You love to do it all the time.
Work out?
Work out. I had to work out. I had to pump some iron.
Yeah.
If I'm gonna take care of myself, what I say in some of my speeches is, if you hold up your phone and it's at 0%, it's a paperweight. It's nothing. So Don't be a 5'10" paperweight. You have to take care of yourself and work out and get the turmeric in there. And for those that want tequila, you got to get that in there too.
There you go. I love that analogy. That's really funny. I think also when you get to 0 and your battery starts dying all the time, well, one, I think Apple controls us and they want you to buy a new phone, whole other podcast. But number two, I think it is universe saying, like, get off the phone. The day is done with that situation. Paperweight it is.
Right. But just
so wait, what did you do? What did you do for a workout?
Oh gosh. Okay, so I needed, with the limited time, I had to do some mobility exercises. I'm an Iron Man, a Tin Man, whatever you want to call me, and then some deadlifts. Just deadlifts are perfect for every sport. So
absolutely, it gets that base layer, it gets the glutes and the hams and all the things you need to do everything else going.
Yeah, definitely. It's seeing you lifting weights. Just it's like if I'm on the couch, I have to get up. It motivates me to get up and be a super athlete. So thanks for the motivation.
Yes, that makes me happy. I need to start filming more of my mobility and rolling out before taking Advil in addition to turmeric. Because some days I'm glad we're doing a lot, but I'm sure like your body, my body needs some extra warm up nowadays. It's been a long road of athletics and training and competing, but we're out here, we're getting it done.
So before we go to whatever's on your mind, does everyone know how great of an athlete you were? Do they know the reason why I know you?
I think so. Maybe not. We're coming towards episode 200, so I try and do a reintroduction every so often, but it's been a minute. So maybe not. I'm not sure.
3-time captain. Like your name was always announced just from how many goals you'd have.
Do you remember this? Yeah, that's funny.
Like for Mason, what I did, I would have a sports show, or I'd be the PA announcer. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to George Mason. So I would have the honor of goal, saying that so many times and just hearing your name. Like people don't realize how good of an athlete you were.
Well, I thank you. I appreciate that. I guess I kind of forget because it was literally 20 years ago, and I never want to be that person being like, 20 years ago I was a D1 athlete. It was so great, If coach would have put me in like Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite. Yeah,
At
well, I
Polk
appreciate
High, I
that.
scored 4 touchdowns.
Dude, those are the worst. But yeah, it is. It's funny you say that because I need to update my Instagram bio to like literally what I've done because you kind of do it, assume people know what you've done, and you really do have to display those ethos. So people are like, oh, okay, like she's actually checked some boxes. They've actually run some laps, and it's important. So yeah, I'm getting the message on a few levels here.
You'll be proud. So we had our first practice for basketball yesterday for the fall season, and I have a certain player, my daughter, who likes to be intense sometimes. And so while we're waiting between drills, or if you're done with your drill, you're supposed to do a wall sit, because wall
Okay.
sits are crucial for defense and for dribbling in basketball. But I also say it's crucial for lacrosse and getting explosion, and for soccer as well. And so you'd be proud. My daughter's like, all right, you guys are being lazy. Everyone wall sits now while we're waiting for coach to finish talking. And it's
Oh
like,
yes. Okay. Future captain right there. It's
there,
already in the blood. Life skills through sports. I'm the major advocate. I love it.
yeah.
If she wants
I'm
to run for
like,
president, let me know.
I'm like, this is KO just coming into our practice and speaking.
I love it. Well, on the youthful front, give us the background because it seems like you've been like pretty mission driven and in or leading towards a leadership role the whole time. But give us a vibe on young Haas, and like, was this in the cards like your daughter early on?
So I think it starts with my parents. So my father was always an educator. My father was always a coach. My mom was always about making the world a better place, taking care of others, respecting others. There's a religious background in that too. So always doing the right thing, and just making the surroundings better. And so if you believe in karma or paying it forward, those things also apply. So with that, it starts with my parents and my family, and from there, I became a teacher after Mason. That wasn't the plan. So I became a teacher, and with that, I met a first year math teacher, and she became my wife. So I think that was destined to be.
There you go.
And through that, I coached athletics at the high school level, and I genuinely love coaching. At whatever age it is, I love it because the relationships that come from it, it's unique. So the the thing that I enjoyed most about coaching was going to a wedding last year of a former player. And,
Wow.
and, and how old am I now that I went to a wedding last year of a former player?
That is crazy. They do grow up fast. We're still hanging in there. We're still waiting for the grow up part, but the kids we coach definitely make moves. What religion did you grow up practicing?
So I'm a practicing Muslim, and
Oh,
and
okay.
I married a Catholic, so we have everything
Awesome.
covered in the Tabrizi household.
I was gonna say you got all the juxtapositions of things, the turmeric and tequila happening. But I actually think that's phenomenal for your kiddos because then they get such a diversified perspective and approach on things. And I'm certainly not well versed in religion in general, but sports and everything was kind of like our go-to and still is, as you can see via my socials. But I think those early life skills and practices are unbelievable. And when you have a couple, yes, they're different, but the idea of being a good person, having boundaries, being committed, like having these guidelines, from my non-traditional view, it's all very similar. And as long as you're subscribing to something bigger than you and you're doing the best you can, that's kind of my take on religion.
Yeah, I definitely don't push thoughts and beliefs on people. Everyone has whatever they want to do, but from a coaching perspective, the let me give you an example. So last week there was a practice before us, and a couple of the kids said something that I would never ever allow as a coach to a kid that looked different. He said, "You should go back to X country," and
Oh,
like if that happened in my practice, I don't know what I would do, but
yeah.
the opportunity and obligation and honor of being a coach is just being able to give messages in different ways to make people better people. And so with that, it's, hey, your teammate gave up a goal. Are you going to scream at them or are you going to pick them up? And so it's the same in the workforce. Your teammate messed up. Okay, are you going to just belittle them and show them how bad they are, or are you going to reflect on yourself and see what you could have done differently? So
Right.
sports and athletics do so much for our lives, and so I know that, and being able to shape people as a coach is really important.
I think, wow, and gosh, today I've always said, like I said, advocating for life skills through sports is so critical. However, those life skills have changed so much in 20 years that I've been coaching, where it's you kind of learn how to get along with teammates and responsibility and being on time and all this. And now it is like getting along with other people and dealing with way deeper issues way earlier because of
Yep.
social media, because of the phone, because of the exposure so much earlier. You have to be equipped as a coach to be ready to be like, a varsity high school counselor or a borderline therapist. Like, you got to be able to not only know when to interject and be a leader, but also know how and what to say in the correct way. So it's a whole different animal. Do you feel that now as your career has moved forward?
Yeah, definitely. There's definitely different kinds of emotions from lots of different players, and so this is the 49th season of coaching for me. So
Oh my gosh.
being able to handle, oh, we have a new player who's really good. What do I do for the former best player? What do I do to make sure that that player's okay? What do I do for the players that don't run hard and like maybe have issues during the school day? Like, so there's so many little things that we just, you're right. It's being a counselor, a psychologist, being able to actually teach is really important. So there's coaches there that just go there and they don't understand the opportunity of what they have. So what if Michael Jordan's coach at 6 years old was a bad coach? What if
Right.
Kobe Bryant's coach at 8 years old was a bad coach? So that's the way I feel. I'm like, okay, I have all these kids full of potential, full of greatness. I have to make sure I could show them that. And it might not be on the soccer pitch, it might not be on the basketball court, and explain that to them. Like, you coming to practice when you're the 15th man is a big deal in itself. Like, don't worry about the end result. It's what you put into it that really matters. And sometimes it's hard to understand as a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old. But that's the beauty of youth sports, where you have to go and instill all these ideas and just keep developing the youth.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you said that perfectly. It's like you're just watering a tree and helping it kind of grow in the right way. And I think a lot of coaches sleep on the fact that you're probably one of the first adults in this kid's life that isn't their parents, that isn't their teacher, like in school, that has this opportunity, that has this in. You have their captive attention. And I think that look at coaches or athletics or some sort of leader, even if it's theater or chess or piano, when it's like a skill versus like a sitting down, like I'm telling you as a parent, I'm telling you as a teacher, that you have a different end and you have a different opportunity to connect and bond. And you can change a kid's trajectory so positively, but with that, you can also change it so negatively. So the mindfulness as a coach of what you're saying and how is really, really tough.
Spot on. So if you're their first experience and you get them to quit the sport, shame on you. Shame
Yeah.
on you. You did something wrong.
Yeah.
The number of kids that come back that are excited, you might be the most fun that they had for the week. That's why you're there. And so for you to say that, spot on. Good job.
I appreciate that. That means a lot coming from you. 49 seasons. I had 10, and that was just like at high school varsity level. But everything before that we coached for many years. But 49 is really impressive. When you do get some of these parents or fellow coaches, do you do like any sort of consulting for other coaches that maybe aren't doing it as a full-time job, but they're just coaching their kid or whatever, like on how important it is, or tips and tricks on like how to deal with kids? Because I mean, 49 seasons is unbelievable. It's a wealth of knowledge, but most coaches have no idea. They're doing it for free. They're already tapped out. And like, it's kind of like this perfect storm of they're just doing it. They're helping. They're not getting paid. So they're probably doing it not the best version they can. And again, then the kid hates it. Like, do you consult with parents or anything like that?
So that's helpful. Depends on the community. So some communities,
Yeah.
they know it all, and they know so much more than you, and it's hard to impart that wisdom because then it's unsolicited advice. The problem right now is everyone's trying to specialize at 6 years old with sports, and it's just crazy. And so looking at sports right now overall, you'll hear from older parents like, oh, my daughter quit her sport at 13, or my son quit his sport at 12. It just became work. Or when they got to college, they finally became a Division I athlete, and they hate it. They don't want to do it. And so parents don't see that. They hire tutors for their kids in kindergarten to learn school and get more advanced, and don't understand what it means for their life. Like from a Tabrizi philosophy, go play outside, go have friends. Yes, school's important. I was a math major. My wife was a math major. We were both teachers. She's still a teacher. Doesn't mean don't do your homework. You still read. You still do your homework. You don't need to go do extra homework in kindergarten, second grade, third grade. It doesn't matter. You don't need to go and specialize in 4 sports in kindergarten, first grade, second grade. Like, go ahead and try all these different sports. And you don't know. Like, maybe you love a sport in third grade and it's not the sport you love in 5th or 6th grade. So if I'm to give advice to a parent, it would be, don't push your kids so much to live the life you wanted to live. So if you regretted things, okay, now hopefully you're putting them in opportunities and allowing them to see different things, but allow them to fail. There's too many, like, are you going to go do your kid's project just because you don't want them to get a bad grade? Allow them to fail, right?
Yeah, thank God I was 20. It was right out of college. So I coached for 10 seasons out of school. So I was younger. I didn't have kids in high, so I didn't care. So I was like, if the parents don't like me, it's women's lacrosse. So like all the dads standing on the sideline, they've never played. I'm not here to hear what you think about Colorado women's lacrosse in the early 2000s. Like, next case. And I was literally like that kind of attitude of like,
good,
because I don't care. Like, what is the school going to be mad at me? Or like, I wasn't a teacher in the building. And also, and I really cared about my kids. Like, I came off a top 20 D1 program, blah, blah, blah. So it was almost like I had to unwind some things because they weren't scholarship athletes. But I treated them like adults early on. And thankfully, I think over those 10 seasons, my parents got the vibe that it's like, you have something to say. My door's more than open, but you can send me an email. Everything else is going to go through your kid. And that's that. Like, they're in high school. They're adults at this point. And mitigate the process. That being said, this was long ago enough where things have still changed even more. And I don't know that you can provide that much space between the parents and the coach.
So the parents that I coach, they're with it. They get it. They don't bother me at all. And it's the systems and communication and they understand. They know all the things that I do. And if I'm coaching 4 teams in a season, on top of everything else that I do, then I can just get the feedback via email or the 1 minute after practice or so on and so forth. I don't need to bother him for playing time and this. Like, if I know the things that frustrate parents, I'm already addressing it head on.
There you go.
So I guess back to your original question for a newer coach, communicate, over communicate. The more you communicate early on in your season, then the more space and boundaries you can get, because your job at the end of the day is to make the players better and make it a fun environment. But unfortunately, that comes with parents. And that's the same with teaching. Yeah. So when I'm advising teachers, hey, okay, set your boundaries, get the information out to your parents so they're not your enemy. They're your accountability partners. They're helping you. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to raise these kids to be the best they could be. So if you can involve them, and then from there allow yourself to have the classroom management you need as a teacher to not have to answer 400 emails a day, because that's probably one of the hardest things as a teacher is just so many requests, so many requests and emails that it just takes away from making lesson plans and figuring out how to have energy as a teacher.
Yeah, just to refuel it. I think that's actually a really good balance just in general of having boundaries on stuff. Over communication is so important, I think, in any relationship, player, coach, personal relationship, business. I mean, you really have to be out there and communicating everything nowadays, because transparency is such a big piece of the game. If you don't talk about it and do it, they're going to find something out through this. And it can be misinformation or misunderstanding. And then the narratives begin in the story. And so I think that's sound advice just for anyone out there trying to do anything, is be clear on what you have to say and overdo it versus underdo it just in general.
And obviously that works in the workforce. So if you have leaders that are direct, transparent, telling you things beforehand, you don't have to make wrong assumptions, or you don't have to have distrust. So the trust is really important to me, and it takes a while to earn that, and it's very easy to lose that. And people trust me with their wealth and with their kids, so I know how important that is. And with that, I do my, I don't know what words I want to use, but
I think you show up. And I think that's something you've always been good about, is just like being a presence. Some people have an energy and a positive vibe, and you can just trust your intuition. And even, 20 years ago when you're interviewing college kids, like we didn't know, like it's not that we were worried about, I mean, there was no social media then. It was such a different game.
Yeah.
We're so old.
Yeah.
But you're still uncomfortable. Like we were women's lacrosse. We didn't have like media cameras or any training. Like I was a comm major, and I didn't, like, we got on like the mic where we were literally like cut and pasting like like VHS tape together. I mean, so we had to like kind of trust you, being like, what do you do? I'm a lacrosse. I play center. Cool. What'd you do this season? I scored gold. I mean, it was so like, you're so untrained. Like you got to have some natural rapport. And obviously you have the ethos, the 49 seasons, XYZ there, but clearly they trust you. And I think leaders know leaders. So when they see how you interact with the kiddos, they probably want you on the team to be a better soccer ball, basketball, whatever player, but mostly just to be a better human. Like just go teach them, teach them how to deal with, camaraderie and teamwork, or even racism, or some of these heavier things. Like this is all part of it in this day and age.
Right. And thank you. And that's why I think parents work so well with me is I have great parents, and they see it and they're like, how can I help you? Instead of, let me just get all my answers that I want and send all these emails and just make your day harder. No, it's more of how can I help you, because you're helping me and helping my community. And so realizing that it takes a community, having unselfish assistant coaches around you is really important. So I'm very clear on the assistant coaches for all the youth sports teams I have. They're also parents, but you can't coach your kid. This isn't easier access to your kid. This is, you're coming and you're not even looking at your kid. You're helping the other kids. And so with that, if you surround yourself, I say surround yourself with greatnesses, then everyone rises and everyone becomes better. And so being unselfish is really important to me, because if you pay it forward and as we talked about earlier, then everyone will help each other out. Yeah.
And what do we need more in our world than that? Like that is exactly what we need. So maybe you should be running for president. Get your daughter to be vice president. That's kind of, I mean, that is the end game what we need. Everyone like dust off your own front doormat, get your stuff together, and like just be a good person. So it all circles back. We might have to recap a podcast on the whole thing there. But I am curious, you grew up, it sounds like, with structured and very intentional, purposeful living, whether it was religion or sports or whatever. Did you have a leader, a teacher, or a coach that kind of changed or inspired your trajectory to get into leadership or coaching?
So I remember my high school soccer coach, and he helped me so much after high school for free. He was helping me train. I was trying to play basketball at Mason. I'm 5'9".
Oh, I didn't know this.
Yeah. I played at community college before it, and I was trying to walk on at Mason, but I actually had a fusion in my back before it, so I couldn't play and I'm not that good. Like, well,
they were like right on the cusp of going, where they went. I mean, that was like right. That wasn't. I mean, it was a little bit before, but the Final Four started, but not really. Like that was 2008ish. So when did you graduate college?
So I graduated in 2006, and I was trying to play around 2004, and so with that, my coach. My soccer coach would train me all the time, and he didn't know basketball, but from a physical perspective, we were doing plyos all the time, lifting, the power, speed, and everything that is needed for basketball. You could take that from a soccer player and translate it. So the amount of time and energy he put there, I think that goes a long way, where I will help people. There's no money involved. It's just, if you ask for help and I have the time, I'm going to give you the help, just because you are willing to put in the work. And so that's Coach P's taught me that. And that's just being a natural leader of hey, work ethic's important to me. And that's one of my values is always being the hardest worker. From a professional athlete perspective, Kobe Bryant was always the hardest worker. If you hear me speak on Instagram, I'm always talking about work ethic. And so knowing the coach, knowing that I would never stop, I was always there. I'd come at whatever 5 a.m. in the morning to work out. I'd show up multiple times a day to work out, which is probably why I broke my back. Then
Balance, yeah.
He wanted to reward me and keep seeing this through. So that's probably the best example I have of a coach.
That's amazing. Does he know that? Like, will he listen to this, or like, does he have any idea how impactful that was for you?
He's out in a farm in Pennsylvania, and he's 80
Okay.
years old right now. But if there's a way to get it to him, I will let him know.
He for sure knows turmeric and tequila. We sound exactly. This is demographic for sure. That's hilarious. I had no idea you were trying to work your way into the basketball. I mean, that's like a super high program. But I was kind of similar to you. I was a Colorado kid. Nobody cared about women's lacrosse. They didn't care about Colorado kids because the Northeast was just so much better at the time, and we didn't have traveling teams back then in Colorado. Like I was lucky my public school had it, and my coach was a softball coach. Like I had a wood stick, whatever. But like you, I was like so bad. But I was like, if I can just get on the team, I got run over my first year. That was fine. But if I could just get there, I'll do the work. Like the work never scared me. Like I sweat more. I think just the lack of opportunity, that I wouldn't be able to just get in the door. If I could get that, my mindset was always, just work hard and then it'll somehow shake out. And I kind of think that's honestly been a running theme for my life. Do you feel like it's been that way for you for all your projects?
So I was about to ask you the same thing. So as a listener, can you explain how a Division I athlete has prepared you for everything that you've done?
Oh man. Well, it kicked the shit out of me. So that was step one, in the best way. Cause I'm so thankful. I always say like God, universe, Madonna, whatever you believe, it prepares you. You can do all the work, practice, have the plan, whatever. And like life is still going to kind of put you on the path you need to be on. Like, I think even if you made the basketball team, then you might not have been as much into like the interviewing and the recording. And now you're like this, big public speaker. Like, of course you needed those reps more than you needed to be doing like free throws. So like, it sucks when it doesn't work out the way you want, but also like, I mean, look who's laughing now. So, I think it prepared me in so many ways. Showing up, knowing nobody. I was 2,000 miles from home. I do talk about this podcast relatively often. I was fearless at 18. Or 17 or whatever. I didn't care. There was no one telling me I wasn't going to do something. I turned down like $20,000 scholarships to walk on to a top 20 D1 team. And I think about some of that stuff now as a 42-year-old. I'm like, it's not that I get nervous for stuff, but like I got to channel the 18-year-old self that did not give a shit. Like there was no gray area in what someone was going to tell me I was going to do. And even as bad as it got, like I felt very lonely because my family was away. And then I ended up tearing my ACL after my best game here in Denver in front of my whole family, the first game back, like all this drama. And it was my first point of like feeling depressed. Like that was new. So I learned, I think, so much between 18 and 22, being a D1 athlete, going through adversity. Once they were like, come to the job world, I was like, oh, hell no. Like, we're just going to be an entrepreneur. I don't want a boss. Like, I'm done having a coach. Like, learned many lessons from her, but it just wasn't my vibe. So I was like immediately prepared to start a business, and no part of it scared me at all. And I think that's because I had so many breakthrough in college where I was like, I mean, I don't have to run a 5-minute mile. Who cares if I have to get up and get on the computer? Like, that's not hard. So I don't know. How about you? How did athletics in general just prepare you for life and all these young humans you're shaping?
So, one, repetition, but perfect repetition. So, I have a thing with my daughter. We would do 500 makes a day, and then I realized this is becoming laborious for a 8-year-old. So, how about you just do 24 perfect shots? So, perfect form, perfect swishes. Just do that every day. Consistency, but doing it at the correct way, because obviously if you drive 100 miles per hour but are going the wrong way, you're not going to make your destination. So doing things correctly with that, and it's not perfectionism, but when I'm dealing with a client on the wealth management side, they trust you, and they won't trust you if you don't do things the right way. So it is important to do things the right way. And I'm going to go on a tangent here, but right now in schools, you're allowed to retake everything. If you mess up on an exam, you could take the test 10 times. So
what? Seriously?
Yeah. Yes.
Like in elementary, high school, middle school, like all of them?
Yes.
Wow.
So
okay.
And it's because you haven't mastered the material yet. So they allow you to retake it so you can master it. So Imagine 17-year-old me. I'm not going to pay attention. I'm going to look at the exam. Then I'm going to go and take it again. And that'll be my study guide. And then I'm going to take it again until I get a perfect score. Well, that doesn't prepare you for life at all.
Wow. That ill prepares you. That's like it's counterproductive.
Correct.
Oh, is that a Virginia thing or is that everywhere? I don't have kids, so like I'm not in these systems.
It's definitely a Virginia thing.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm sure it's countrywide, but it's a thing. And it's like, can we redo that free throw? That'd be great.
Well, what's funny is like this is where, because I'm a longtime CrossFitter, and this is where like is it a sport? Is it not? I'm kind of like, nah, man, it's time fitness. I love it. I bleed it. We've been doing it for 10 years. But the accoutrement that goes into CrossFit, you change your shoes, you change your headband, you change this, and you chalk, and then you time your workout, and then you restart the clock, and you redo it, and you can submit it. I'm like, in real sports, like there was no redoing the goal. There's no, if you get a bad call from the ref, you get over it. Like there's no redo or resubmitting a workout or no retaking the test. Like it's done. That's it. And that's kind of part of the thrill of it, is that like when then you feel the gratification of kicking ass because you earned it versus you did the system. Like, when did that become a thing?
UVA losing to a 16 seed, they should ask for a redo there. Well, they actually did a redo by winning a championship the next year. So the friction that came from being embarrassed and losing to a 16 seed just showed the mettle of who they are and allowed them to really have an off season to be like, okay, well, we're going to have to show all these people who we really are. And with that, they came back and they became champions. That's greatness, is to go from rock bottom to the apex. That's really beautiful. And we can't, it doesn't happen if we don't allow adversity.
Well, you need the sting. The sting is what provides the space for you to feel that yearn and that need for greatness, and knowing that there's limited time. Like in my mind, I knew I only had 4 years. There was no professional women's lacrosse, and there was nothing after that. Like this is as high as it got. And I knew if I couldn't do it in 4 years, even though I ended up doing myself and got 5 years, careful what you wish for. Isn't that funny? And I knew I had like this pressing timeline. If I knew there was this big redo or gray area, I don't think I would have worked as hard in time. Like knowing my personality, I would have, but hypothetically, I don't know. I think that sting and that breakdown and that sense of urgency that's provided by yourself, like your internal spirit or those around you, that's a critical element of success. And then you do feel the greatness. Like I feel like you might be robbed of that if you don't feel the breakdown and the pain.
Right. As you said all that, I took a moment to look at your life. If you went to school in Colorado and you knew everyone and things were easier for you, would we have all this that we have right now?
Yeah, there's no way I was going to stay in Colorado. I didn't apply to a single school. I remember to the last minute I was sweating because my like grades were okay. My ACT and SAT, I was a horrible test taker. I literally was like, I want to go D1 top 20. My parents were like, what about the business school? I'm like, oh yeah, it's great. Like, I don't even know if I had a business school. I didn't care. I was so dead set and like probably up at night thinking that I wasn't going to get into school. Like the fire was real. So I don't think there's any chance, but hypothetically, if that didn't happen, I truthfully think I would have just been miserable. Like I missed out on something, and I don't know what direction that would have led me down. Maybe it would have made me more angsty to follow my dream, but I can't even imagine that not being a thing. Maybe not at George Mason, but on some team. So I'm probably not answering your question, but that point in my life, I don't think there was a plan B. And if it was, man, I would probably, be a totally different person.
I'm just knowing you and looking at you, independent, strong woman who's capable of anything. A lot of that you could attribute to, well, what do you attribute that to, actually?
Crazy genetics. My family's insane. No, there's a bunch of hard drivers. It's so funny when you're saying like if you drive a car at 100 miles in the wrong direction, it's still in the wrong direction. That's me for sure. The good news is I'll be okay doing the work to be like, oh shit, let's just go back the other 100 miles. Like we'll figure it out. And that's part of the problem. But usually if I'm in on something, I'm in. And I do think that's a product of personality. I'm the oldest of 4. I had 3 younger brothers. So again, I think universe was preparing me not only to be a strong female, but be in a room of all men most of my professional life up until like kind of recently. So I think it's all like you nurture nature, environment, for sure. Just coaching. My coaches were always big advocates on strong women and being outspoken. And again, this is 20 years ago. So it wasn't as socially acceptable as it is now to, like take off your shirt like Brandi Chastain and, do a big dance. Like you didn't see a lot of that yet. So, I don't know. I think a lot of my fire discipline and then just like clear vision on what I'm going to do is just a combination of these things. But I do think you have to be disciplined, but I do think we are hardwired in a certain way to operate and walk through this world.
So for the girl dads out there, what's your advice for creating alphas as daughters, leaders as daughters? What advice do you have out there?
My best advice is that I'm fascinated by the idiosyncrasies that make us us. And it's like, I wanted to be a pro lacrosse player. You wanted to be a pro basketball player. We have these ideas of what we want. And my biggest thing now at 42, from the personal work that I've done, it's really about understanding you and not what you do, and understanding your core values. So what's happy or what makes you feel fulfilled or like purposeful and intentional. And if whatever path you choose, if you can feel those things, I really think it's about maintaining the mental health feeling, that purpose feeling, fulfillment in whatever it is. If you have those, then you can chase the dream or do the work right now to get to the dream. Like whatever it is, if you can embody those characteristics and feel whole within yourself, you will be a leader. People will see that wholeness, that energy, that personal responsibility that you've committed to yourself. And even if you're not, alpha or outspoken, you will exude an energy that's there because you're secure within and you're understanding and walking a path that you're confident in, even if you don't have the end game or a mapped out situation. I certainly never did, but I was clear I was in the pursuit of something, whether it was a short-term or long-term goal. I was on to the next thing. So there wasn't a lot of time for bullshit or like drama or anything like we kept forward. So number one, I'd say determine your core values and know what you care about so you can walk happy and purposeful. And number two is get your purpose in line, get your goals, but like you were saying, get around good people that are better than you. And then there's just all the other BS flickers out because there's just not a lot of time. How about you? I'm curious to hear your response.
For raising a girl dad, so putting her in opportunities that challenges her, that creates real confidence. So I think real confidence is important. So I've had parents before saying, well, yelling or being strict isn't really the best thing. And I'm like, okay, hold on. I change how I am on purpose. So if we're going to go and play in a AU tournament against certain types of athletes and communities that it's just going to be very difficult, I'm going to be difficult the week before, just so that if I made practice harder and I was scary, then the game will be a little easier. And so if you can handle me and do well then the game is going to be a success for you. So real confidence, not just, okay, well, you're allowed to take 6 steps and travel and oh, you missed the shot, so let me just wipe the ball off for you and hand it over to you. Oh, you made it, yay, after the 5th try. No, real confidence. So we have to put them in challenging situations that create real confidence, but also exposing them to a lot of opportunities. So my daughter plays 4 sports. Her mom had 13 letters in high school because she doubled up in the winter. So wow. Knowing that, having that as a role model for her, having great female figures in her life is important. The love that comes from a dad is really important. Just there's so many things. The mindset. My daughter wrote a quote in my second book, and to hand her the book and be able to have her read the quote and take it to school and explain why she's so confident. Like those are things that make her more confident. So just little things like that add up. Or how about this one? So we were at the beach in the summer and there was a very fit younger girl there who was reading a book for a couple hours, and I go up to my daughter. I'm like, hey, go up to her and talk to her and ask her what sports does she play. She clearly looked like a swimmer. And so we walk up to her, talk to her for 10 minutes. She was a professional. She's an Olympic swimmer. Okay. So she had, I think 3 golds at Rio and then a gold.
Sweet.
Yeah. And she's talking to my daughter and for me, it's giving my daughter the confidence to just be able to have that conversation. Now, you don't need to have your little kid go up to strangers without you there. That's not smart. But I'm there. And so for her to be able to be an equal with this 26-year-old, it just that makes my daughter even greater. And so just opportunities like that. Or when she was 3 years old, she went to Giant and went behind the counter for the cakes. And she's like, Hi, excuse me, we need a cake with the train on it, and it needs to be blue and green. She's 3,
I love it.
but telling her that's her job, those are little things that just make her not scared in life.
I love that. Real confidence. That's so eloquently said, and the absolute truth, just kind of exposing that environment early. And the representation's always critical. Like, you need to see some version of yourself in some forward version of the path that you want to go down, that they're there and you can like tangibly see it and know that, it's possible. How did your wife do 13 letters? I feel like you guys need to, that's a boss. You guys need to be like Hassan the boss. That's insane.
Oh man, and she's the yin to my yang. She balances me so much. I am outgoing and very confident, loudly confident, and she's quietly confident. So she played field hockey, she dove, did gymnastics, and then played soccer. So wow. Because of the diving skills and gymnastics are interchangeable, the coaches allowed her to do both sports.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, like, you can't even like logistically do that well,
Correct.
but man, you have no room for BS if you're doing all that stuff. Like, you're getting life skills. Like, you're ready to be a CEO, ready to ready to get out of high school. That's crazy.
Having me as a dad, who I am intense. I'm very intense as a coach. I have very high expectations. Like, we're getting up and we're doing this, and then having a mom who also understands, like, if you're gonna commit to a sport, you're gonna do it to the end of the season. You don't quit. And things like that. Not saying my daughter wants to quit, but the point is, that's the kind of mindset of having both that around you. That just really is going to help all 3 of my kids.
Absolutely. Well, so I'm super curious because growing up, it was funny. I didn't have a lot of guy coaches, and because obviously women's lacrosse is different than men's lacrosse. So there is really successful males in the women's lacrosse game, but I've always thought it's weird that they've never played the sport. So how do you coach it? I don't know. But again, we've had really great ones, Gary Gay, etc. What is the difference, or what's your experience been versus like coaching young girls versus coaching young boys?
So I coached high school boys basketball and high school girls basketball. I've also coached AAU boys and AAU girls, and then youth boys and girls. So just like the classroom, girls tend to listen better and be better students and be more fundamental. So you can run a lot more plays with girls. I'm going to say things that's going to come off, I don't know.
Follow your heart.
Yeah,
49 seasons.
Boys tend to be more athletic, and when the older they get, they're more athletic. So with that, then there isn't more they don't need fundamentals. They don't run plays as well. They tend to just do it themselves. Girls are really good at being coachable.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the beautiful thing. If you have coachable boys who are super athletic, and you take the information that you give to the girls, now that team is going to be very successful. And we had that in high school, and that's why we had championship after championship. It's being able to take the offenses that we instilled on the girls' side and then bring it to the boys. And so...
Oh, interesting.
Beautiful stuff.
Okay. Where did you learn that from? Are you like a big advocate of like Coach K, or like, are any of these coaches that you follow, you're a big student of the game?
So when I first coached girls at Oakton High School, Fred Priester is just a 3D chess player with all the things that he does. And so just soaking it all in and being able to pass that on to my players. So it actually matters the angle of your feet. It actually matters the angle of your elbow. It actually matters the littlest detail. Now, the problem is with youth sports, you don't want to overdo it. So you have to find one thing for them to do and then have them get good at that one thing, then you can add to it. So high school sports, college sports, maybe middle school sports, you want to be perfect. And hey, your shoulders need to be this way and your follow through needs to be this way. But for youth sports, it's being able to explain to them something simple that they can go do and then actually be successful with. Because if you go do it and miss 100 straight times, they're not going to believe you.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same with wealth management. It's the same with communicating in life. If I'm going to go give you something and have it actionable, then you're going to want to see success from it. And otherwise you're going to quit. And so that's sometimes why it's so hard to lose weight or have a workout plan, because it 8 weeks sometimes. It takes 12 weeks sometimes. And the instant gratification or things that come with our phones and Amazon and so on and so forth, it makes it much harder to see things that take years to develop.
The instant gratification is such a thing. It's funny because even in college, again, school was not the priority. I always liked to learn and whatnot, but I really just had my mind's eye on competing. And I started a lacrosse business after college, so it worked out. But having the cost of convenience was always this theme that always rang in my mind that bothered me, like instantaneous, like fast food, calorically, it's, it costs you, or, fast relationships, they tend not to work out. Like anything that's convenient is usually the wrong way to go about things. And now it's on like that times 10 with this.
I was going to be funny and say, tell us more about fast relationships, but that's for a different
whole
show.
Other podcast. Yeah. This, again, I just have to work out here. We just got to do sports. It is, but even like quick, like business deals or personal relationships, anytime you're just not really invested or taking your time to get to know someone or cook your own food or do something the long way, it's not that you don't need convenient things once in a while. It's just that continuous practice of instant gratification, I think, is such a killer. Or like online dating. Did a whole podcast on that, of how it's this transactional swiping. And I'm 42, so I kind of missed a lot of that. I think it's just not good for your soul. But again, then you go get fast food like this. It's just quick. And I don't even think you stop to think how much you're giving up to get these convenient options.
Spot
Mini
on.
tangent.
No, it's okay. And that's why I talked about it before, like me going to work out and making sure my battery's not at zero. Well, yeah. It's also having the right mindset and also the right nutrition and having all that balance. Because if we want to be the best versions of ourselves, we really have to take care of ourselves. And the beauty of things now, we're talking about those things. So we're talking about yoga, we're talking about meditation, we're talking about macros and what we put into our body and the impact that it has, and things that are happening more for me is what are we doing with leading with our heart and just going the extra step with how we treat others. So I'm glad you brought up the costs of fast food. It's convenient, but what did it really do to me? And people don't see that.
Ugh. It's so brutal. Well, on that note, how much I always talk about like humanizing, like I always say I'm an athlete or a human first, then I'm an athlete, then I'm a business person or whatever the titles are. How, and when the companies I work with them for KO Alliance Consulting and Branding and Marketing, long story short, we in general work with them to humanize the brand. We're in a society where our kiddos see through everything. They're conscious consumers or younger people or older people alike. People want to know what you're about. Is it woman owned? Is it minority owned? Is it local? Is it this? Does it gives back to charity a percentage? But like whatever. I always say unpack the thing. And I think that comes tenfold in coaching, where, like you said, leading with the heart. How are you? How is your mental health? How are you as the human? How much do you interject those conversations now with your kiddos, coaching or your own kids?
Oh, all the time. Since again, I have that responsibility and the obligation to be that extra voice, just to cement what is being taught at home. So I'm saying the same stuff that parents are saying, but it's just different words. It might be when it actually clicks, and so that's a major part of youth sports, is just being able to say the things that sometimes I want the other coaches to say things so my kids hear it. So it's really important to say those things.
I think that's amazing. Well, and perfect segue, because I do want to talk about the business, because I'm everything I really do is about our young people coming up, because they are the future. But also, I just think there's not a lot of people that they don't have an agenda, whether it's marketing or sales or something like that, are leading our young people in a certain direction. So I just like transparency and the truth. So I love that we've unpacked a lot around the coaching, because our athletes are more than likely our future leaders. No shade to our actors or anything else, but just kind of is how it is. So these conversations are really critical. How now are you working? Like, tell me about the motivational speaking and coaching with adults, because a lot of the stuff they're learning young now, it took us 20 years to figure out and be like, oh, I've had coaches, I've had this, but this would have been great at 14, but now at 30, 42, whatever, coaching is more relevant now for me, like for life skills than ever.
So I like to show things. So let me turn it around real quick. What are you trying to accomplish? You said you're 42 multiple times, and thank you for that. What would be a successful decade for you? What do you need to accomplish between now and when you turn 50?
Between now and 50, dude, I really go like 5 years out. I don't know if I can go that long. Success to me is truly like I was saying earlier, is just feeling whole and in route with my purpose and impact. Impact is like this constantly running theme in my mind where, yes, I want abundance and money and love and these things, but like a positive impact is the only way I think I'll feel truly purposeful and in living and pursuing my life of service. And so all those other things are great and part of it, but that path towards impact and knowing I'm somehow contributing to this world is very critical to like my own core values. And I think most of my family is like that in our own ways, a couple military brothers and coaches and leaders, blah, blah, blah. But that would be success to me. I definitely want to have a lot of money because as a business person, the more money you have, the more chips you can move. You can just make bigger decisions and streamline processes and, fund nonprofits that are doing it right. Like you can do so much with money. So never be scared of money. But just generally speaking, yeah, I would just want to be in a position where I'm like, man, I feel purpose, I see the impact, and now I have the ability to maneuver to directly positively impact causes or situations or things or people that I want to, especially by 50.
And so with the things that you shared, knowing that your message is something that is important, because I deal with wealth and it's like, I just want to have a lot of money. And it's like, because I want a golden toilet seat. Like, why do you want to have a lot of money? So I talk to clients and it's like, I have $40 million right now. I'm going to have $100 million at death. It's coaching to, are we giving to the poor? Are we creating scholarships? What was impactful? What was important to you? Are we just giving the money to the kids? Whatever it is, having them think about things that they haven't really thought about. You, with who you are and the people you talk to, of course you've thought about these things, but there's a lot of successful people out there, or just anyone out there that hasn't really looked for what am I going to do personally, professionally, and financially over the next 5 years. And so having that goal in mind is really important. And then with that, okay, so these are the chips that I have. What do I do to optimize those chips? And so those are the conversations, just making sure you don't lose the opportunity that you have, because there's people out there, let's just say they make $1 million a year, but they go spend $700,000 a year, $800,000 a year. That's not going to be productive for their financial goals. And so being able to coach people and have the rapport with them and have the honesty with them to be like, you said you're going to spend $200,000 a year and you're spending $700. What happened? And there's a lot of advisors out there that can't do that. There's a lot of advisors out there that are just talking about rates of return and just trying to sound like the smartest person in the room. If you have a connection, if you are really trying to help people, you're just trying to show them what they want and then lead them the right way. And then you're still going to put them in the right investments and lead them down the right path. But the why is really important. And without the why, without the purpose, then you're just going through the motions and you might be going, like we said before, 100 miles per hour the wrong way with what you're doing. Like maybe we pushed all our chips in on crypto or something like that because everyone else did it. Like,
yeah.
No.
Amen. That's so real. And the kicker of that is the advisor that's just worrying about the percentage is just like the person that has $1 million coming in is spending 900,000. Like there's no showing up again and humanizing what your daily practice is, whether it's work or family. But I hope people can hear the authenticity and the leadership in who you are, because that's extra work to be honest with like a kiddo in practice, or to be honest with a client at work, to say these things versus just be like, yep, here's how we make money. Here it is. Cash my fat. Like that's easy. That you can do that and they'll look successful and it'll be great. But to sit there and have the conversation being like, little Julie, I told you not to wear jean shorts today. This is real practice. Like you need to wear athletic shorts, or I can only think, like we did camps for 20 years. So I laugh on some of the conversations, but we had to like break it down and then they would get it versus just be like, yeah, we'll take your camp money, whatever. And then Julie looks like a fool because she's in jean shorts and her hair's down and like all the things. And on the varsity level of, you're making $1 million, but you're spending 90% of that. Like you're set up for financial ruin, especially with interest rates now. Well, I mean, I'm not a finance human by any means, but I think it's extra. So when people hear leaders or coaches like you and they see that you authentically go that extra mile, people are smart. They see that. And then like you're saying, they'll authentically trust you.
That's why I work with everyone and I work well with everyone, but female CEOs love hearing this because they want to be heard. They want being a good listener is really important, and so taking 30 extra minutes for that instead of just giving the recommendation, because people are like, so what do you suggest I do? And I'm like, I don't even know you. I don't know what's going on. I don't know your background. I don't know what mistakes you've made. I don't know what you're trying to accomplish. You probably have 5 different things that you haven't even shared that are assets that you don't trust me yet. So I don't say that, but they really, later on you learn, it's like, I have this, and I have this, but it's because they didn't trust the advisor. So really building the trust, again, with the kids, with the parents, with the clients, but also in the speaking engagements, building the trust with the audience. So being authentic and sharing what's in my heart, sharing personal stories, talking about my family, and having it so that the message is something that they can hear. If it's robotic, or if it's an AI chat or whatever it might be, like, they can just go look it up online. But if it's something that they can just sink their teeth into and be like, okay, that is relatable, I understand. So like, my biggest message right now is, I didn't realize I wasn't living my fullest life. So at 40 years old, some of us, this was the last summer, some of us have midlife crises and realize we need to do more. Mine was my mom telling me I wasn't doing enough, and I'll get into that. But I had 3 wonderful kids, great wife, we're successful, I'm healthy. At that point, I'd written 3 books, and we're financially okay and all that. So my mom had a health scare. She was told she had advanced cancer, and so with that, I asked her what she wanted to do with the remaining time that she was given. So, like, do we want to go travel? And she couldn't travel. Do we want to go do this? Do we want to go see this? And my mom, being a mom, being who she is, she's like, you said you were going to be on TV when you were in your 20s, and you didn't do that. And I'm like, huh, okay. All right. So she challenged me with a couple things, and she's like, there's things that you said you were going to do and you didn't do that, so you need to go live your life. You have so much life left. And I wasn't going to argue back and forth with her. Like, I know oftentimes we don't listen to our parents, whatever age we're at, whether we're 8 or 40. But if you're prescribed that you don't have that much time left, you have to listen to that person. So a couple months later, I made a radio show, and The Breeze 93.7 The Ticket is on Sundays at 1 p.m. And the reason for that is so my mom could watch me on online and see me every Sunday. She's my #1 fan, and she gets to see it, and being who she is, she's like, oh, you're slouching, or this looked bad, or your audio is this, and so on and so forth. But that radio show turned into a TV show in Lincoln, Nebraska, and there's so many things that came from that. And then it's like, okay, I got that goal. But my mom, being who she is, what's next? Yeah. So you need to go do this. So now because of that, it's like I'm writing another book. So a 4th book's coming out in the fall. And part of that is just to impart a lot of the wisdom that we've been talking about in a book form for readers. And that's because of my mom. And then on top of that, okay, I'm able to get my message across to people in my community, or people that somehow get referred to me. But I want to hit a wider stream. I want to go international, and TedX allows that. And so with the TedX, people will really understand that how great they truly are. And so that my mom caused that. And I can say my kids are my why, and my wife are my why. They are. And my dad's important to me, and my sister's important to me. But my mom calling me out and say I didn't live my life to the fullest at 40, it's like, oh, dang, okay. Yeah. And so I'm sure there's many people who regret not doing something in their life and didn't go do something they promised, and they have excuses for it. Or instead of being lost and driving 100 miles per hour the wrong way, they're not even driving. They're just sitting there. And so the message for my mom, from Mama Tabrizi, to go live your life to the fullest because you don't know how many days you have left. That's really impactful.
Amen. Well, your mom, her nickname is now the truth. You got the boss in your life, your wife, and the truth as your mom, man. You better pack a helmet. That's a journey right there. But what a blessing to have strong humans and strong women. This is great for your sons too, but for your daughters, that's big. Thank you for sharing that. That's powerful, and it's really vulnerable from you because you're an established leader. You're preaching ways to live life and to stay vulnerable and human in that, being a student while you're being a coach. I think those are our best leaders. Those are the ones where in 2023, it's no longer this coercive, do what I say because I said. I'm in it with you. I still do my training. I still have my bad days. My family breaks my shit down. Like, this is, I think, the most important leadership that we need, because it needs, like you've been saying this whole conversation, authentic and transparent and real. And that's real.
Thank you. Yeah. And being able to share that, because there's some commonality when people have cancer, they tell that to each other so other people can understand that this is difficult. This is what I went through. Or if miscarriages happen, I'm going to say some sensitive things. If miscarriages happen, we had a couple. Whenever someone has one, we impart our wisdom because we care about each other. So as humans, if we open up and share, okay, this is what happened when we went through it, it just shows that we can overcome most things. There's certain things that are very difficult, and I'm not going to go there, but if you hear, okay, so my son broke both of his arms. It's like, well, there's someone out there that broke both of his legs. There's someone out there with no arms. There's someone out there that broke his neck. There's someone out there with no arms and legs. So those are that's the type of mindset to have. And he actually brought it up himself. I didn't need to coach him on that. And that's amazing to be able to have that mindset as a 10-year-old. And it's tough. Like, he might look amazing here. He's still going to be crying at home because he had a long day, or he can't write, and so on and so forth. So just because you guys see perfection on social media or positive words from me, there's still very difficult things going on in my life, and very difficult things going on in pretty much everyone else's life, just because they're not showing that. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Bang, bang. I think, it kind of all boils down to mental health. And then the more we can be vulnerable in that, the more we can connect and people can just not feel alone. And I think if we can just not feel alone, have a little bit more empathy for one another, because like you said, it doesn't matter what time in your life, your highest highs, everyone's going through something all the time. Like, there's never really not something going on. And if we could just hold a little space for each other a little bit more, I think that is where that connection comes in, and then that comes back because you're going through something. So someone then can open up it's just like this reciprocal energy that I think just gets lost in our American culture so much. So I really appreciate that story. And that's pretty awesome that your mom had the awareness and of all because you're an accomplished human. So I love that she picked the one thing and she's like, all these medals, these awards, these books are good, the money, the house, all the thing, but can you please get on TV? Yes, Mom. That's hilarious.
Pull on the thread, Mom. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, she knows you. I'm sure, she knows you well, and she knows you're kind of, I think you're always like your young self forever. So I think she knows how to strike a chord, and she struck and it worked.
Exactly. And I love it. And because of it, it's going to change so many lives. And so, thankfully my mom is still here. It's the mindset that she has. I don't know when she won't be here. It could be tomorrow. Hopefully it's not, but I'm lucky enough with the bad news has come her being around my kids more. So she lives with us 4 days a week. And so she gets to teach our kids she lives 10 minutes away, but she still lives with us 4 days a week. That's awesome. So with that, my kids are really learning so much more from a different voice, and just raising 3 kids is hard. So having a grandma in the house is awesome.
I have 3 dogs and it's hard. Yeah. I can't, God bless you guys. Absolutely.
So being able to, and again, so many people have lost their parents or even buried their kids. So I'm not trying to bring sad memories on death. It's the mindset I have on it, because even if my mom passed away last year, the wisdom that she has passed on to me, it's always having that message in my head. Or my dad, it's like their voices, they've made me who I am. That's why we started with why I am the way I am, is because of my parents. And so whether they're here or not, it's to honor them and live the way that they raised me to live my life. So
I love that.
I
We're
love my
definitely. It's too. Everything goes back to athletics for me because it's just there's no middle ground. But I always had this mindset of, and I don't think anyone told me, it was always just something I would think of because my family was very prideful and competing, but like always knowing that like the name on your front of your shirt is important as the name on the back of your shirt or your jersey, because I think, when we're walking around representing ourselves, it's one thing, but when you constantly have this messaging that like you're representing your family, you're representing your mom, these messages, every person that did something before you, as a strong woman, all the women that did so many things at Blaze Trail for me to even play sports or Title IX or all these things, like it's always in my mind of gratitude and then to drive home what you're saying. And I think it's good for everyone to hear is that time's finite. Like you can be diagnosed with cancer, but you can also get hit by a car tomorrow. Like anything can happen. And knowing that you can again plan, do all these stuff, like that might be it. Like at least you got this conscious conversation because of something, and now you can choose to live life a different way.
Yeah, I'm very lucky for it, and now the challenge comes making it so that as many people can hear it, and it's hard because sometimes when you talked about mental health and you talked about things like that, I talked to my therapist. I was like, when can you help people the most? And he said when they're honest with themselves and honest with me. And so I'm trying to, for the last year and a half, like learn how to communicate better just from talking to my therapist, because he's really good at it. He's really good at asking questions. And like the last time I was with him, it was literally spending an hour on helping the audience hear me better. And so the advice that has stuck with me on why my mental health is strong is because I'm honest and open on things that I need help with or my weaknesses. And so with that, I go and make them strengths. And so in Kobe Bryant's 10 rules, the first one is work on your weaknesses. Michael Jordan couldn't make jump shots coming out of college. And so if you know your weaknesses and you don't hide them and you're honest with yourself, then that in itself is the starting point of you becoming great.
There you go. Or you can just learn how to jump from the free throw line straight to the hoop and dunk it and not do no. I completely agree. It's so funny because like all these things you learn in kindergarten, first grade practice, whatever, is the same shit you're unpacking at 4042. It's just fancier and more expensive to hear the same message. So, we're out here as coaches, we're still learning. But I truthfully think if anyone that hears this conversation, your credentials are unbelievable. You have the experience. I love that you're so involved with leading our young people, because that is truly everything to me. It's not about me for the most part, but for our society. But really that like you're letting as a leader the humanness lead. And I couldn't agree with your therapist who has way more credentials than me more, is that's where the buy-in is. I don't think it's hard or complicated or anything. It's just tell the truth and people will buy in or they won't. And there's your intel on which way you go. It's like that. That's it.
Yeah. It's well said. I can't say anything after that. You said it perfectly. Way to put a little bow on that one.
Do you find yourself as being such a successful leader and coach? Are you probably like the worst with yourself and your own practices, but you're great with other people? Or are you pretty good with maintaining your own situation?
Okay. So reflection is really important to me.
Okay.
Whether it's after a meeting and my business partner's like, literally after every meeting, like just a 1 minute, it's like, dude, it was a great meeting. We don't need to talk about it. Well, what could have been better? What could have X, Y, and Z? And that's just who I am. Like the practice was great. No. What could we have done better? And so reflection is really important to me. My wife has to remind me all the time, like, I play tennis, and I was watching the U.S. Open last night, and I'm like, you know what? I need to bring a second pair of shoes and a second pair of socks out when I play tennis and have a changeover after each set. So I have a fresh pair of socks and shoes. My wife's like, you're not a professional tennis player.
Maybe you're a CrossFitter at heart. This is what CrossFitters do. This is what you need to go do.
What's wrong with you? Like, just relax. It's just tennis, and you're not even that good.
That's so funny.
Having someone like my wife nearby to just tell me how I'm wrong with everything. That's valuable.
Well, keep the good people around you that are keeping it real. That's funny. On the flip side, though, I kind of do think. I mean, we're young athletes, so we're always going to be like training like the dream player, even if we're old and like have knee braces on and whatever. But I think keeping that mindset of championship behavior, even if you're changing those little practices, I actually am in alignment with you that like, you know what, bring your extra shoes. Just lie about it, navigate around the argument, but just throw them in the bag and then just do a quick change.
Right. It's every little advantage you can get. So the electrolytes, the nutrition, 3 water bottles, whatever I need. Is my shirt light enough or my shoes light enough? Like those things matter. And so if you are that prepared for athletics, are you that prepared for life? Are you that prepared with your finances? Are you that prepared? Like that's a lifestyle. Yeah. So you don't just wing it. There's intentionality with my practices. There's intentionality with the wealth management. And so with intentionality, it prepares you for the worst. Oh, this happened. I have to make changes. I'm ready for it. Oh, this happened in the market. I'm ready. I can make changes. So being intentional and having the little details prepared is super important.
Amen. Well, I have a million more questions, but I want to be mindful of your time. Do you hit us where we can find the books, find the TED Talk, find anything we want to know further about Haas to get inspired to be a better person?
Thanks. So the TED Talk will come out. It's actually November 18th, so it'll probably come out towards the end of the year. And so my website is hosstabrizi.com. So my name, HOSSTABRIZI.com. You can catch a lot of things there. I'm on Instagram. I'm an old man, so I'm just getting into social media, and so don't judge.
Just use the filters. That's what I do.
The MySpace and Facebook days. It's like,
yes.
You still have Facebook? It's like, leave me alone.
I still have Facebook. Judge accordingly. Yeah, that's how we That's how we reconnected, don't we? I know it's a thing. We're definitely old. It's real.
Facebook started when we were in college, anyway. But find me online. All my socials are on my website. You can Google me. But just whether it's me or someone else, if you need a pick me up, you can just find any motivational thing online. There are some great things online from a motivational perspective. If from a finance perspective, whether it's me or anyone else, it's actually good to hire a professional to go and make a plan for you and be intentional with it. Because if you have all this hard-earned money, whether it's a $50K salary or $500K salary or $5 million salary, you earned it. Don't lose it. Go grow it. So whether it's me or someone that a friend recommended, go do it. And the same with sports. Like, go play it, go find a good coach, and live your life.
I couldn't agree more. Health and finances together is true freedom. This is truly the last question, but I ask everyone this: what is success to you?
So your answer and mine, when I asked like what would be a successful 5 years, can I just rewind and take your answer? It's
absolutely. It's like you studied for the test. We're like Virginia students now.
So the hard part of success for me is I won't know probably for 40, 50, 60 years from now, hopefully. So how many people come to my funeral, how many lives I impacted, how many people grew because of me or became a better person because of me. And if not me, then what do my kids do and how are they going to make the world a better place? And it doesn't even have to be my kids. So one of my former basketball players is going to be a doctor and he's going to make an impact. So seeing what my former students and former players do, that really hits me and I love it. And so did I make an impact on them? And for them to come back and message me and say, hey, I remember in math class you said this, or I remember in practice you taught this. You won't know those things until later, but just seeing people being better people and making the world a better place. I know it sounds cliche, but if I had a hand in it, that's even better. And that's what success would be to me.
Hey, amen. So well said. And yes, I'm right in alignment. So of course we've crossed paths. This has been magical 20 plus years later to reconnect over a mic, like an interview. Like it's so funny how like serendipitous that is. So I really appreciate you reaching out. It's such a special thing. And shout out to George Mason University. Have you been back to the campus at all?
So coincidentally, I promise, I wore a George Mason polo that I haven't worn in 10 years today.
Okay.
I was going into the office, and you're supposed to either wear a suit or a polo. And so it's the first polo I grabbed. I used to wear it when I announced. And
yes.
It's like, whoops, like today's George Mason Day.
That is amazing. Well, I'm glad you got to work at him, but next time you can wear the polo for round 2.
I'd love to be back on. This is awesome, and just keep bringing energetic people on, and keep making the world a better place. We need turmeric and tequila, and thanks for having me on.
Oh, I appreciate it so much. Keep me posted on everything that's coming up. We'll repost the TED Talk. We'll do all the support. It takes a village to make some waves out there, especially with these freaking algorithms and all the tech situation trying to mute us. But yeah, keep posting everything. Check out what Haas has going on. This is a good human doing good things that really cares about the right things. So this is someone you want on your team financially, your kids at their practice, whatever. So please go check out what he's got going on. And if you're close enough, go get your kid into his sports situation, because it'll save you a lot of time and energy as a parent.
Hey, you better come out to one of our practices when you're in Virginia, and you can just show them what Division I athletes actually like.
Oh man, I'm gonna need a foam roller and an Advil, but I will definitely do that. I haven't been to Virginia in forever, but I promise you, if I make it out there, I'll hit you up for sure.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Your kids are calling you. You got to go.
I know. Can you hear? I know. She lasted so long, and then this is the control I have. I'm such a leader.
I mean, I had to text mine to be quiet, so it's all good.
Thank you, Haas. I appreciate it.
Thank you. It's good to see you.
Likewise.
Thank you for joining Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Tune in next time, and don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.